freaks and geeks. I'm Alma Carranza, and you're watching Trojan Arcade. Wow, 5 seasons. You're still here? Really? I'll get you like a gift card or something. After a long slumber in our winter caves, we've emerged from our healing icebergs, ready to serve you the freshest news, the sickest segments, and a third incredibly cheesy thing. Who knows? We'll get there when we get there. On today's show, we've got a review of Watchdogs 2, our recap of the PlayStation experience, and some Madden gameplay. I don't understand football, but I think fake football is going to make a lot more sense. Now let's send it back to those fresh old boys at the news desk.
I'm James Alessi.
I'm Cam Greeley.
And this is your week in video game news. Have you ever wondered how much money those popular iPhone and Android apps make? Well, wonder no more, because Declutter, a site that buys unwanted tech products, has built a counter that in real time counts the amount of money these apps make. And like the ever-present ticking of the American debt clock, the numbers keep going higher at a drastic rate. In the 25 seconds since I have been reading this news story, Pokemon Go alone has made over $1,000,000. Yes, a whole $1,000,000. Sadly, Clash of Clans, yes, it apparently still exists, has only made a measly $950. So in case you're fooled by the charitable guise of free-to-play games, they make money. Lots of money. And I'm a little frustrated about it.
Video game journalism news time. Yes, we're getting pretty meta today. The Entertainment Software Association recently announced this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo, that's E3 for those who are not in the know, will be open to the public for admission. News that is equally as exciting for people like you as it is disappointing for guys like us who no longer feel like a part of a super cool secret club. Although E3 technically has been open to the public for the past few years, tickets have been an outrageous $800, and now for the first batch of public tickets, they will go for only a reasonable $150. Tickets go on sale this weekend, February 12th, but it's probably safe to say they'll sell out pretty quickly, so if you're interested, you might want to jump on that. Given the new public accessibility, I guess that this year's E3 is going to be a bit more focused on hands-on demos and interactive promotions, which means even more lines to wait on. Either way, it's certain to make for a great, or at least interesting, E3, and we love to see you there. Unless you're a creep. Then we wouldn't.
Super Mario Odyssey is the newest and somewhat confusing Mario game in an iconic franchise, and will only be available for the Nintendo Switch. In this sandbox-styled game, players run around in 3D worlds, including a city landscape, a vegetable world, and more, in all hopes of rescuing that basic blonde Princess Peach. Personally, from seeing the preview of Mario running around in real city environments, I am kind of confused as to whether he is human at all, or merely what the Japanese think of Italians. Either way, it should be interesting to see how he deals with the crushing reality of our capitalistic society.
In what might be the most unexpected news story of the day, the National Basketball Association recently announced a partnership with Take-Two Interactive, publishers of the popular NBA 2K series, to form the NBA 2K E-League, an esports league for the series of basketball simulation games. Now there's a professional basketball league for those who can't play actual basketball. Interestingly, each 2K team will be sponsored by their real-life equivalent, with actual NBA players drafting professional 2K players to represent their team on the virtual court. So real basketball players are drafting fake basketball players to, in turn, play a video game as these real basketball players. Yeah, I know. I'm not positive many people will turn out to watch digital basketball when the real stuff is on TV, and if you're watching a sport, you just want to watch the sport. If you're watching an esport, why settle for basketball when there's stuff like Overwatch, League of Legends, Call of the Duty? The NBA 2K E-League might not be the wisest of business decisions, but at least I've got something to rub in the face of all those teachers who told me video games won't go anywhere. You hear that, Miss Netherby? Look at me now.
Facebook has announced that they will be closing around 200 of its 500 Oculus virtual reality demo stations at Best Buy, locations across the US. Their reason for scaling back on their first big retail push for VR is because no one is really using the stations at all. It was common for the Oculus demos to go days without even giving a single demonstration. Oculus spokeswoman Andrea Schubert confirmed the closings and said that they were due to a seasonal change. According to several Best Buy workers, it seems as though nobody really wanted to use the booths because people didn't want to, and software bugs would render the headsets unusable entirely. Personally, I'm not a fan of putting my face on something that has mostly only been used by people who work in or just hang out in Best Buy.
It is a big day in Overwatch news. The game's newest update will finally feature a server browser. The browser will list all the custom games available in your region and include standard featuring options like map type, hero availability, as well as specific tweaks like special ability countdown and health levels. Players can now also earn XP and loot boxes from custom games. The update also features some clues about the next new character. Doomfist could possibly be smashing onto the scene, based on the payload asset in Numbani. Hopefully, we won't have to rely on nerds decoding images on Reddit again. Sombra.
And that's all from this week's video game news. Now back to you, Alma.
Thanks, boys. That didn't suck. Watchdogs 2, Ubisoft's highly anticipated follow-up to Watchdogs, lets players go on a tech-filled adventure through the streets of San Francisco. I haven't played it because seeing home so realistically rendered might make me cry, but let's hear what Jamie Boy has to say about it.
The original Watch Dogs game came out back in the innocent year of 2014, and it was hyped up to be the biggest new IP to kickstart the 8th generation of game consoles. But major graphical downgrading, an unlikable protagonist, and broken PC build killed the excitement for the game and the trust of gamers everywhere. Ubisoft hopes to mend old wounds and fulfill audience expectations with the sequel, Watch Dogs 2. In Watch Dogs 2, you play as Marcus Holloway, the newest member of the hacktivist group DedSec. He and other DedSec members are trying to take down big internet company Bloom and its connected companies as they try to use the data of people against them. Yes, the premise sounds a bit generic, but it works for the most part. The game's story goes into more serious themes like identity, empowerment through technology, and systematic oppression, but never truly goes in depth with these issues. I feel like this was a missed opportunity from the developers to make a statement about these topics. One of the best inclusions of Watch Dogs 2 is the game's new protagonist. Where in the previous game, Aiden Pierce was too serious and unlikable, Marcus is a complete 180. He's much more likable, lighthearted, and funny than Aiden.
Your face is too dark for my sensors to read.
Bitch, I'm black and I'm proud. Tell your sensors to calibrate that.
He has a cool and confident style that you don't see from most video game protagonists. He also has a very interesting motivation for joining DedSec and trying to take out the big tech companies. He was a victim of the city's automatic crime prevention software and was framed for a crime he didn't commit. He's also good chemistry with the other members of the team, helping to make the group more fleshed out. The only thing I have against Marcus, and the game as well, is the cringeworthy dialogue. For example, most of the members of DedSec, including Marcus, use a bad 90s-esque hacker language. I could just be ignorant, and this might be how hackers actually talk to each other, but I found it to be annoying.
Don't worry, Cyber Child.
Oh, don't.
Hacker movie's gonna get hacked.
Despite the game's dialogue, I was still invested enough to play the game through completion, but I know that others couldn't get through the game because of this. The last point I have about the story is the tone. The game's story tries to be both serious and funny. Though it was more successful in being funny, it never seemed to really get the right balance. The story works best when making fun of real-world events and people like Tom Cruise through Scientology missions. Now for the gameplay, let me get to the point. Hacking in this game is the best. No, it's probably not real-world hacking, but it is moving people's cars as they are driving and triggering gang hits on random people, which is pretty amazing. Watch Dogs 2 follows in the footsteps of its predecessor and lets you hack into people and the city. Many of the past game's abilities return in this game, but they also added new ways to hack. You can now tip off police and gangs to go after a person, leading to their arrest or assassination. This led to some crazy chaotic moments where the game's different systems interacted and a gang versus police shootout can get started on accident. Also, remote controlling cars is a great addition. It lets you clear traffic when driving, but also just makes for fun assassinations. New additions to the Watch Dogs hacking formula are the inclusions of remote-controlled drones. You have an RC jumper that can roll into AC vents or remote hack into physical terminals. There is also a flying drone that can be used to scope out an area and let you plan out your route. These inclusions are more useful to players that want to be more stealthy, as it can allow you to finish a mission without setting foot in the restricted areas. If you want to be a silent ghost in one mission and then be a gun-ho, trigger-happy person in another, then go for it, even if it doesn't really fit the character. Speaking of guns, The gunplay of Watch Dogs 2 has also improved to some extent. New special DedSec weapons and capabilities are included. For example, you can now shoot from inside a car. But in the end, the gunplay in Watch Dogs 2 is not as interesting as the hacking abilities. The game also seems to encourage you to have approaches that are more stealthy and hacking focused. Marcus can't take much damage, so being undetected as long as possible is best. Another thing that has been expanded in this game is the online multiplayer. It is now more seamlessly integrated into the single-player experience. It notifies you of the multiplayer events that you can join or turn off multiplayer altogether. The game has 3 main multiplayer modes: hacking invasions, bounties, and co-op operations. Hacking invasion works similarly to player invasions as seen in the Dark Souls series. If you are invading, you have to steal data from another real player without them noticing you. You can't attack them, but they can attack you, making for an intense game of hide and seek with the other player. Bounties are the other big multiplayer addition. In this mode, if a player causes enough damage to the police, the game will bring in other players to take you out. It's similar to GTA when you hit 5 stars, but you get hunted down by other players instead. It adds a level of unpredictability to the traditional fights with cops as seen in many past games. Lastly, there is co-op operations, which, as they sound, are just missions that you can do in co-op. They are fun, but similar to what you do in the single player. The last thing I want to talk about is the open world itself. I personally really enjoyed this open world. San Francisco is a really vibrant and colorful city that is recreated with lots of care. Though it is smaller than the real San Francisco, it still contains many of the most iconic locations like the Mission, the Ferry Building, and the Castro. I also appreciated the inclusion of places like the Tenderloin, which, though it is small in the game, make the city feel more real. The surrounding cities are also given the same level of detail. Oakland has its industry areas, downtown, and poverty areas. Palo Alto has Stanford University and is surrounded by different tech companies' campuses. Though the main story doesn't explore all of the map, the side activities like car, boat, and drone races do. Collectibles are also spread all over the city, often in nooks and roofs. Each collectible ends up turning into an environmental puzzle that tests your hacking ability, drone skills, and parkour. These ended up being some of my most favorite puzzles in the game. Finally, the NPCs in this game are some of the most interesting I have ever seen and react in ways that are often unpredictable. For example, you could be taking a selfie and have one photobomb your picture. Random moments with NPCs were fascinating, as in one encounter when a woman in the streets of Oakland was angrily destroying her boyfriend's car. These intricacies with NPCs were truly unique, and I hope companies like Rockstar were taking notes. For my final thought, Watch Dogs 2 is a big improvement over the first game. I could go on and on praising the different ways you could use the hacking powers, but the game did have some issues. The game was hurt by poor writing, tone, and story, and it had performance issues when things got hectic and a lot was going on. The villain is forgettable, and the ending sucks. These mistakes kept it from being the home run it could have been. If you want to play Watch Dogs 2, you can easily find it for about $40, and at that price, it's definitely worth the cost. As long as you can get over the game's dialogue, then you're in for a good time. In the end, I give Watch Dogs 2 8 dancing Marcuses out of 10. Here's hoping that the next Watch Dogs game will make even more improvements and truly rival a Grand Theft Auto or Just Cause.
8 dancing Marcuses out of 10. I love the Trojan Arcade rating system. It's a beautiful creation. So, here's what is percolating in my mind now that we've seen Watch Dogs 2, which is open world.
And Ubisoft.
And Ubisoft. What do you guys think of AAA open world? I guess that's very broad. So,
Well,
I mean, Watch Dogs 2 is you getting to run around and do tech things, open world. Another Ubisoft title, Assassin's Creed, is you getting to run around killing people, open world. I mean, do you guys...
Rockstar equivalents, Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto is open world. Like, what do you
Sure.
guys... I mean, how do you feel? Tell me about your feelings.
well, because like, I guess for games like Grand Theft Auto and then all the Ubisoft games are kind of a bit more story heavy on the, like they have the, I mean like Grand Theft Auto has the open world mode where you can just play online and do whatever the hell you want. But you know, it does have a central story that a lot of people like to play through. But if you turn to games more like Skyrim or even Fallout, like, you know, like the story's still there, but you can do a lot more stuff outside of
You
the
can
story.
go do what... I
Yeah.
have played one story mission in Skyrim, and the rest has been me just, like, gathering plants and killing wolves.
Yeah, so I think there's the give and take with the whole side quest thing too, and that like people love to waste time in video games sometimes. Like Skyrim, I put 100 hours into that, and I think I didn't even really start playing the story mode until like 80 hours in, and then I like knocked it out at some point because I was just off doing crazy stuff in like caves and stuff and just doing whatever. And the same thing can be said for Grand Theft Auto to a certain degree, except most of it is debauchery and just killing people,
And just killing
attracting the
people.
police, and
Get
like
more money,
Yeah.
get more vehicles,
And
go crazy.
I think there's a place for that. I also like really like driven stories that do try and say something and have a real, I don't know, like individual storyline that
Like a
isn't
meaningful
super
beginning,
repetitive.
middle,
And that's
end.
where
like everything
that's where
else.
the Assassin's Creed comes in,
Right.
and you know, Watchdogs too.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Assassin's Creed's a really famous. I mean, like the mechanics are fun and everything, but you know, like
It's the same game.
Ezio and Altair that like really made those games awesome, like their stories.
I can easily go back and play Assassin's Creed 2 whenever, wherever, especially just like the beginning, I would say 30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It's just it sets up a really good emotional investment, but then also like just getting to run around the Italian countryside and like do whatever wherever on a horse like is fun. My thing is personally, there are certain, if a world is really well built and has a really good story built into it, I wouldn't mind getting the chance to run around,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and same thing with like the character. If the character is really rich.
So I think we are at the point where like I would safely say that developers know what makes a good open world game. But I do think we're getting to a point where we might start seeing copies of games with good open worlds. Like they're going to keep cloning their own stuff. And that's our Humble Onion. Please stick around, and after the break we're going to be showing you PlayStation Experience, and we're going to try to play the football with the pigskin. Stick around.
Let's watch Trojan Vision.
Did you listen to the new Kanye album?
Yeah, but it wasn't very good. It's revolutionary to hip hop. It's amazing. Are you serious? It's totally unoriginal and unintelligent. How is it unoriginal and unintelligent? There are 30 samples.
Welcome back. Did you get some snacks? I hope you did. Sony has led the crowd by hosting the PlayStation Experience, a fan-focused E3-style convention where people can play with the titles in PlayStation's upcoming lineup on their very own show floor. This year, PSX was in Anaheim, and we made our sweet little way down. Check it out.
My name's Matthew,
My name's Maria
and we're here.
at PlayStation Experience
2016. All right, we're with Tom for Battle Chef, an Adult Swim game. Can you tell us a little bit just about, run down about what Battle Chef is?
Yeah, so basically Battle Chef Brigade is a fantasy Iron Chef sort of game. So you got orcs and elves and human chefs. They hunt monsters in the arena to collect ingredients. They bring those back to the kitchen to make dishes for the judges. All inside of an RPG wrapper.
Awesome. So what games were like kind of served as jumping off points for you for Battle Chef?
No, oddly, it wasn't a lot of games. It was mainly TV shows on the Food Network because there haven't been a lot of cooking games that are focused on improvisation and sort of time limit that you see on shows like Chopped or Master Chef or Iron Chef. So this is really focused on that sort of improv creativity and not following recipes.
Okay. So what kind of like, and would you say Battle Chef is more of a, you know, get your friends to come over, hang out on the couch and just around on Battle Chef for a few hours?
You totally could do that. So we have a whole bunch of different modes. Like we have the single player story campaign where you sort of like go through this Battle Chef Brigade tournament. Sort of like there's like the Iron Chef style narrator and you sort of travel through this town, you meet friends, you buy items, you do all sorts of jobs to make your way into the Battle Chef Brigade. Okay. There's also sort of Super Smash Bros. Style break the targets challenge modes as well as a pantry rush or puzzle rush sort of puzzle pantry cooking challenges. And then there's the daily cook-off, and the daily cook-off is the big replayable thing where you can play every day. There's random judges and arenas and monsters and required ingredients and all of that.
Cool. So what would you say your favorite part of the game is?
Oh, that's a good question. I really love the combat, but that might just be because it's what I've been working on recently. Okay. Like making a really complicated, well put together combat system. Well, at first we were like, oh, that'll be the easy part of this game. The cooking will be the big challenge. But there's a lot of complexity to combat systems, especially in a game where you're not just murdering everything on the screen. You're really hunting for ingredients and finding the ways that that's different from a brawler or a platformer and nailing like exactly what it feels like to be a hunter. It was really fun.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I think that's awesome.
Thank you,
man. Have a great rest of your day. Eckert for Uber Entertainment for Dino Frontier. Can you tell us a little bit about just rundown of the game, elevator pitch? What's the brief rundown for Dino Frontier?
Yeah, so in most VR games you play in first person as yourself. So in this game we call it a tabletop scale VR simulation game. So you're essentially, you have two hands, you play the role of Big Mayor, and you're trying to build a western town surrounded by dinosaurs. Okay. So you essentially zoom in with your hands like your pinch and zoom. You pick up little settlers, you assign them to jobs, you keep them fed, make sure they don't get eaten by velociraptors and things like that. So you it's a simulation game. You're building a town, and you can hunt dinosaurs and build a town up. So that's essentially the basic game.
This sounds like a unique VR game in the sense where you can really play it for a very extended period of time. You know, you can kind of just hang out and just do this for a while. You know, so I mean, would you say that kind of sets this apart from the direction of most VR games, where it's kind of short bursts of gameplay?
Yeah. So we released another game called Wayward Sky, which is a third-person adventure game about a month ago for the VR launch, for the PlayStation VR launch. And we really like playing with the perspective and comfort. So this game was sort of taking that idea and making it into a bigger, longer session game.
So the Super Bowl happened. Some guys won, some guys lost, and the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. Now, none of us here will ever be quarterbacks, especially not James after his tragic ACL tear, but we have video games, so we can at least pretend. So today we're recreating the Super Bowl in Madden, which is the New England Patriots versus the Atlanta Falcons.
This is correct.
Yes.
That is how much I know.
Yeah.
So here we have, you're the Patriots and you're the Falcons?
And I just intercepted a pass.
Oh, and he's, oh, and
I'm
yeah,
done.
Go!
Well, we're going to simulate the early lead, and I'll come back. It'll be fine.
Oh,
It'll be fine.
Oh,
Here's
right.
our first drive.
I know one of them.
So
Lost.
Let's go for the point after.
Yeah, choose. And
See, what's interesting
I'm gonna
is
do
you guys can see the plays that you're picking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels like cheating.
You know, kinda.
But really, all you really see is the formation that we're in, which is what you would see as a coach in a real football game, and you can see 3 of the possible plays we run.
And my coach is still Bill Belichick, so the question of like whether or not we're cheating really isn't anywhere. Like it's basically a definite.
Yeah, it's not a question at this point. It's
That's
how
a
much are
football
we cheating?
joke.
It's a reference.
Yeah.
It's a reference.
reference.
That
Oh, could the
right.
other people might
Hey,
get
man.
it.
I know that Brady isn't doing so hot so far for you, but don't get a deflated ego.
Now we're making bad puns.
Yeah,
I wish
we
I knew
are.
how to sprint in this game, but I'm gonna
It's
figure
hold
it
the
out.
right trigger.
Oh
Oh, he's-
God!
okay.
What did I land?
And then they're all gonna
Uh,
hug.
25. Okay, well I made
So
it to
it's
the
a
25.
touchback.
Well, basically, yeah. 28.
The funny
I
thing
started
I
3
always
yards
see
back,
about
okay.
sports games is like there tends to be a lot of clipping, I guess you could say.
Yes.
So like everyone just like ends up like molding into each other. It's like if only sports really did exist on that kind of, fake temporal plane where everyone just like phased through each other. I think that would be wild.
Yeah.
Astral sports.
That would be fun.
Heck
That
yes.
kind of sounds terrifying because you could lose your body and
I mean,
someone
yeah,
else
but
and-
you could lose your body while apparating. Like,
let's
Oh,
not bring
God.
Harry Potter into this.
We're all
And I'm
so
just gonna
nerdy.
run.
none of
Gronk,
us
go!
go outside.
Oh, all right. Well, I almost made it, but Gronk is
That was a good
slow.
completion.
This man's name is Gronk.
Yes.
Gronkowski.
Gronkowski, who isn't actually able to play in this game because he was injured.
Oh.
But
Gronk.
the Madden of 8 months ago didn't know that, so
Right.
we're just out here trying to do our best.
Right.
Right. Interesting.
And
And
for
I
all
have
they know, this is an exhibition game, not a Super Bowl. But it is a
Can
Super
you
Bowl.
actually?
I think just having handlebar facial hair really just qualifies you to be the head coach of a football team.
Basically. Does Madden have?
And there's a flag
Well,
on
was I
what?
offside?
Maybe.
I think I was offside.
Wait, does Madden have a campaign mode or is it all exhibition games?
No.
You can play franchise.
Okay,
So
and that's where
play
you can play
seasons
through
and
to.
playoffs and Super Bowl.
Okay.
But you can also, well, I don't think they actually have it in this game, but in previous games you could create your own character and you only play that position, so everything else is simulated.
That's interesting.
It was really cool.
Yeah,
I would always
10-yard
play as either
penalty.
quarterback or a receiver.
Yeah, and most of the sports games these days have that same kind of application where you can basically play as a player that's coming up.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's what I was wondering because I know the latest FIFA had actually like a story campaign mode
Yeah.
where you played a very specific character.
And they were copying, baseball games have done that too.
Right.
Yeah. That's their way to try to get you invested into some sort of storyline with
Yeah.
sports, but really, most people just want to play sports.
Yeah, most people
so-
just want to scream at their friends.
Yeah. Get competitive, yell about FIFA teams that I don't understand.
Yeah. See, there's a lot of moving that I don't understand.
Oh,
incomplete,
man.
incomplete.
He
Incomplete.
did the thing. That's pretty interesting. So far, who's winning?
What down is that? It's 3rd and 11.
Yeah.
Who's the
okay,
Falcons
kinda
again?
screwed.
Cam's winning, so Cam's winning, and we're gonna pretend that that's where the Super Bowl ended in real life.
Aw.
I know.
I mean, woo!
Sports joke.
Let's get one more play.
That's
Last
it
play.
for the show.
Last play.
I'm Alma Carranza.
Can you finish
He's
it?
Cam Greeley. He's James Alessi.
Go!
And this
Go!
is
Go!
Trojan Arcade.
Oh, no!
Don't forget to change your passwords every 3 months, and we'll see you next week. Someone still won. I don't know. Keep playing. I want to see who actually wins.
It's over now.
Yeah.
It's over. It's really over.
I got the ball back.
Oh, no.
Oh, so you are gonna win?
He's going to win. But he's not.
You're watching Trojan Vision. For more of your favorite shows, check us out at trojanvision.com and like us on Facebook.